everybody, it's Dan Eaton here, lead trainer for Progressive Property in Commercial Conversions. Now, we were running a room on getting started in property, and there was lots of things that came up in that room that I've had a bit of time to reflect on, I've thought about, and I've tried to condense them down. So I'm just going to put them into this post here for you. It was about getting started in property, and I've titled this out, Getting Started in Property, but I've titled it about what I would say to my 20-year-old self. And in some ways, they are very, very similar, and they're both linked. So getting started in property, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? Very much linked, because they have a very intrinsic thing around money and attitude and the way that you would work, do, play hard in some ways. And when I was 20 years old, I was in the Navy, and that's pretty much exactly what I was doing, I had that attitude that was very much sort of work hard and then play hard. Now, we were spending, maybe if we were in training, we were spending time in the classroom training up, or maybe we were off on operations at sea, whichever it was. Basically, the more money I earned, the more time I spent away, the more it basically meant, the party as soon as the opportunity arose. And that's pretty much exactly what I did for a number of years. Now, I'm sure there's many of you watching this who will think back and in some ways, laugh at the things that we used to get up to when we were younger. I'm sure there's some horror stories that one day when we finally get out of lockdown and we're able to go to the pub and have a conversation, I'm sure there's some really interesting stories that some of you can tell about what you used to get up to when you were younger. But, it was all about working hard, playing hard, so getting the money in and then spending it. All right. Now, in hindsight, that's fine. We can think about that, and I'm sure you do the same sort of thing. But if you think back to that time, the truth is, I didn't know any better. And I don't know if you were the same, but back in there, I didn't know any better. I hadn't been educated in how to behave as an adult. It was a case of, I'll just go and earn some money and then go and spend it. I hadn't had any education. It's very, very similar with the property side of things. Back then it was just making it up, just doing what we were doing, seeing what happened with life, or we were following those around us who were probably pretty much doing the same sort of thing, just trying to make it up as they go along. And this is exactly what's relevant to getting started in property. I see so many people getting started in property and they're doing exactly the same sort of thing. They're making it up as they go along. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to learn it for themselves. Now, in some cases, that can have quite significant, particularly financial implications if it goes wrong. So there's just something there about, thinking about how to actually do this correctly. And then there's other people there who are actually following, what those around them are doing, which in some cases might be absolutely fine, provided those that they're following and those that are around them are doing at least it correctly. So that, there's no sort of serious financial implications there, but it might not be necessarily the right thing for that individual. Okay, so just putting all that together, just thinking about what I would say to my 20-year-old self was very much what I say to the new people getting started in property and people wanting to get started in property. And we're going to distill that down into effectively 3 steps. Okay, first one, as I'm sure most people will have heard and doesn't make a great it's no real surprise, is it's around education. It's got to be around that education, but it's got to be the right education. All right. So I'm talking here about a life education, but not necessarily education for life. Although not a formal one, but you've got to get the right sort of education. It's got to be the right sort of education for you. Okay. So we keep going back to why are you doing this stuff? Okay. And a lot of the questions that were asked yesterday on the group were, I've got X, Y, and Z. I live A, B, and C, what should I do in terms of property? And the answer generally went back was, well, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Start there and then work back. The rest of it becomes clear from there. But too many people just focus on a particular strategy because they don't have the education side of it. So there's something there about getting the educated. Second step would be to make sure that the people who you are around, who you surround yourself with, are the right type of people. Now, again, most people will have heard the saying that you are the sum or the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, okay? And if you think about it in those terms, and you think, who are you spending the most of your time with, those 5 people? Now, at the moment, granted, in lockdown, I imagine everyone's spending their time with whoever they live with, which may be a blessing, may be a curse, but that's a different topic. We'll go into that another time. But if you are spending the amount of time with those sort of 5 people and you are the sum or the average of those 5 people, just make sure that they are bringing you up. They're pulling you up as opposed to dragging down the average, all right? So you want to be making sure that in some ways you are the one who drags down the average for them and they're the ones pulling you up rather than it being the other way around, okay? So make sure you surround yourself with the right type of people. And then the third step then is basically to combine those two things. So once you've got the education and you're surrounded by the right type of people, the supportive, the ones who will pull you up, you then just need to be taking the action, okay? You need to take the right type of action based on the right type of education with the right type of support around you to make whatever it is that you're trying to achieve a success. So that would be sort of my 3-step system. And it's exactly the same sort of thing that I would say to myself if I was 20 years old. I would be talking about getting the right type of education for whatever it was I was trying to achieve in life. I'd be talking about surrounding myself with the right type of people who are helping me get to that goal. And then I'd be taking action to make myself head towards that goal as well. So those are the 3 things that I would say to people wanting to get started in property, but also the 3 things that I would say to my 20-year-old self, just about life in general. So my question to you out there in the community is, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? Okay, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? I imagine there'll be people thinking back to their 20-year-old self and what they were up to at 20 years old. And again, we'll have that conversation another time. But how about you put in the comments what it is that you would say to your 20-year-old self? Let me know in that comments and let's see what people would say. Let me know in the comments and we'll see you all soon.